Hi to all, welcome to Have channel. You're watching health, environment, food safety, fire safety, sustainability solutions. Today we are discussing about what is the World Environment Day, how it is celebrated the World Environment Day, what is the history of World Environment Day, and what is the theme of every year of World Environment Day, and how we will celebrate the World Environment Day. So how you involving the World Environment Day activities in your workplace area and in your life. So let us discuss about that World Environment Day history. How the history, it is a World Environment Day that driving 5 decades of environmental action. Since its beginning in 1974, the World Environment Day has developed into a global platform for raising awareness and taking action on urgent issues from marine pollution and global warming to sustainable consumption and wildlife crime. The millions of people have taken part of over the years, helping drive change in our consumption habits as well as in national and international environmental policy. So a lot of landmarks it's going to through World Environment Day in the decades since its beginning of 1974. So coming to history, the World Environment Day embraces smaller and less developed nations while tackling even bigger topics from sustainable consumption to the illegal trade in wildlife. The annual day of action that begins more than 40 years earlier goes in viral in social media. So, Environment Day is celebrated every year 5th June in the United Nations principle of vehicle for encouraging the awareness and action for the protection of our environment, first held in 1974. It has been flagship campaign for raising awareness on emerging from environmental issues to marine pollution or human overpopulation and global warming to sustainable consumption and wildlife crime. So World Environment Day has grown to become a global platform for public outreach with participation from over 143 countries annually each year. World Environment Day has provided a new theme in the major corporations, NGOs, communities, governments, and all celebrates worldwide advocate environment causes. So every year the World Environment Day create the one theme. Accordingly, they will be done the programs in the workplace area. It's a World Environment Day was established in 1970 by United Nations on the first day of Stockholm Conference on the Human. So environment is resulting from a lot of discussions, integration of human interaction on the environment. The 2 years later in 1974, the first World Environment Day was held with the theme of Only One Environment, the resulting from discussion on the integration of human interactions and the environment. 2 years later, so every year they will be celebrating for the 1974 since then 1987 the idea is rotating the center of these activities through selecting different host countries in began. So like that the history is happen World Environment Day. For almost 5 decades the World Environment Day has been raising awareness, supporting action and driving changes for the environment. So here is a lot of timelines given and key accomplishment of World Environment Day history. So this year is clearly given the theme for that 2020 is the time for nature, and it will be hosted in the Colombia in partnership with Germany. So Colombia is one of the largest mega diverse nations in the world to hold 10% of planet's biodiversity. Since it's a part of the Amazon rainforest, the Colombia ranks first in the bird and orchid species diversity, and second in plants, butterflies, freshwater fish, and amphibians. So like this world environment will be history will be happens. So every year it will be going for the with the different themes and different scenarios. So it will be happens conducted in United Nations in world environment day history. This in this history, every module and every theme will be we have to be incorporating and have to implement it for this workplace area. So in 2020 they clearly given the is time for nature theme. So in this time for nature clearly given the biodiversity importance. So let us discuss on what is the biodiversity. The biodiversity describes the variety of life on earth, including the 8 million plant and animal species on the planet, the ecosystem that house them, and the generic diversity among them. The biodiversity is a complex interdependent web in which each member plays an important role, drawing and contributing in ways that may not even be visible to the eye. The abundant foods we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and weather that makes our planet habitable all come from nature. So, why biodiversity matters? Let us discuss. The biodiversity is the foundation that supports all life on land and below water. It affects every aspect of human health, providing clean air and water, nutritious foods, scientific understanding, and medicinal sources, natural uh, disease resistance, and climate change mitigation. Changing or removing one element of this web affects the entire life system, can produce negative consequences. Without nature, life on earth would not be possible. So without nature, life on earth would not be possible. So what is the impact of human activity? Human activities have significantly changed three-quarters of land surface and two-thirds of the ocean area. Between 2010 and 2015 alone, 32 million hectares of forest disappeared. And in the last 150 years, live coral reef covers has been reduced by half. The glacial ice is melting at astonishing rates while ocean acidification grows, threatening the ocean productivity. The wildlife species are disappearing tens to hundreds of times faster now than in the past 10 million years. And within the next 10 years, one out of every one knows species may have been wiped off the planet. So we are on verge of mass extinction, and if we continue on the path, the biodiversity loss will have severe implications for humanity, including the collapse of food and health systems. So coming to biodiversity loss and COVID-19. The emergence of COVID-19 has made it clear that when we destroy biodiversity, we destroy systems that supports human life by upsetting the delicate balance of nature, encroaching on wildlife, reducing the genetic diversity within animal populations, causing climate change and extreme weather events. We have created ideal conditions for the spread of viruses between animal and human populations. So nature is sending us a message. So it's a time for nature. So let us time for nature. So reversing the biodiversity loss is the only way to restore and sustain a healthy planet. So this will only be possible when we understand the web of life in which we live and appreciate that it functions as a whole systems. It's time to reimagine our relationship with nature and put nature at the heart of our decision making. So the conversation on biological diversity recognize the biological diversity is a critical to healthy planet. To this end, UNEP Its partners are helping countries them develop their own national biodiversity strategic action plans. UNEP also supports important knowledge platforms on ecosystems and biodiversity such as a Global Forest Watch, the Global Petlands Initiative, and the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. So like that, all initiatives should be understand, and we can be uh, go for that healthy atmosphere in this biodiversity. So in biodiversity there is a SDGs, like sustainability development goals. It's a main role for this SDG part. So biodiversity and the sustainable development goals, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development provides a collective plan for achieving peace and prosperity for everyone on the planet. So it is built around 17 sustainable development goals addressing global challenges relating to poverty, inequality, climate change, environment degradation, peace and justice. These goals are the interconnected and interdependent. The progress on one enhances progress toward the others, and biodiversity is critical to all of them. Biodiversity is the critical to human development and well-being. The biodiversity underpins economic prosperity. More than half of global GDP, the equivalent of the roughly 44 trillion, is the modern are highly dependent on nature. Of those living in poverty, more than 70% depends at least in part on natural resources to earn their livelihoods, whether through farming, fishing, forestry, or other nature based activities. So, nature is the essential source of many drugs used in modern medicine. Plants, animals, and microbes enable medical researchers to understand human physiology and treat diseases. 4 billion people rely primarily on natural medicines, and about 70% cancer drugs are either natural products or synthetic ones inspired by nature. So, ecosystems regulate the earth climate by capturing and storing greenhouse gases. In fact, healthy ecosystems can provide 37% of mitigation required to limit global temperature rise. So, conversely, when we damage ecosystems from peatlands to mangroves to tropical rainforest, they release carbon instead of storing it. Biodiverse ecosystem can help mitigate the impact of natural disasters such as floods, storms, tsunamis, avalanches, landslides, and droughts. They can also protect against the spread of disease. Whether native biodiversity is high, the infection rate for zoonotic disease such as COVID-19 is lower. So how we will be achieve the sustainable development for this? The effect of human action, land use change, over exploitation, production of greenhouse gases, and consequent climate change, pollution, and the spread of non-native species is pronounced. So every year 13 billion hectares of forest area and desertification has occurred across 3.6 billion hectares of land. 8% of all known animal breeds are extinct. 20% are at the risk of extinction. Meanwhile, pollution has deteriorated coastal waters and many fish species are being rapidly depleted. Human activities have also contributed to conditions in which viruses can more easily be transmitted between animals and humans, resulting in infectious disease like COVID-19. So, according to that report published last year, irreversible declines in the natural environment present a major threat to the last 2 decades of progress toward the sustainable development goals. A far more optimistic future is still attainable, but only with a drastic change of development policies, incentives, and actions. So let us. It is a time for nature. That is the reason in 2030 agenda for sustainable development goals, the nature is calling. You can protect the environment, protect the biological diversity. Within 10 years left to achieve the 2013 agenda for sustainable development goals. And as we enter the decade of action to deliver the global goals, 2020 is a make or break year. UNEP and its partners will lead a decade on a ecosystem restoration, and a key international meeting such the Conference of the Parties to the UN Convention on the Biological Diversity will chart the course for the global actions. So rising biodiversity loss is the only way to restore and sustain a healthy planet and the lives that it supports. It's times to reimagine our relationship with nature and put nature at the heart of our decision making. So together we can act for nature, for world environment. To join that, every hands should be understand for this world environment day. So every year the world environment day is hosting to one country and create the programs. So this year the Colombia is will take in that initiative and get involved for this time for nature theme, and accordingly they will be develop the program for that to host this country. So they will be create the lot of culture for this environment things. World Environment host country, the Colombia has put together a wide-ranging series of events featuring experts of biodiversity issues from across the global. So every sustainable use for biodiversity, green business, and COVID-19 pandemics, and how to community and citizens for initiatives, how the climate changes will be happens, how to enhance and how to incorporating for this environment day, and every person should be involved for this environment day celebration for that in every year June 15. And every workplace you can be protect the environment, you can protect the planets, and you can respect that for that environmental surroundings, and initiate the create the planting more planting culture, and create the culture in workplace area to promote the environment atmosphere, and understand the air and water and climate change perspectives, and you can be create the culture and restart the events like World Environment Day programs, and you can be create the posters, and you can be stick in it your workplace area, and create the culture of the work environment day awareness. Planting you can do for planting, and doing for that awareness activities like drawings and essay writings and slogans, and go for that rally for World Environment Day, and protect the nature and hug the trees, and create the awareness of trees, create the awareness of biodiversity. And every activity should be create the more culture and protect the environment, and you can protect the green air, protect that fresh air. So for all this should be it comes to for that nature. So let us get involved in this World Environment Day celebrations and understand that theme accordingly how to follow. This 2020 theme is the time for nature. So let us please go for World Environment Day global website. It's an environmental program. Now 2020 is the Colombia country is going on. So they will be initiating the lot of webinar programs about sustainability development goals and biodiversity initiative programs. So every environment professions and all admin guys and whoever that love the environment nature, let us understand and create the culture, and you can be involved in this activities and register the events in this World Environment Day website. Every year you have to celebrate the World Environment Day in June 15th. This is the way you can be celebrate for that every moment and with one theme for every year. So this is the entire picture of that history and theme and how to conduct the World Environment Day. So guys, let us understand, please follow the World Environment Day celebration. And also there is a World Environment Day pledge also is there. You can save the environment, save the earth, save the nature. That is a general policy for this every year, but you can be understand that and you can be customized for that, adapting for that all the climate change and nature, and you can take for that initiative for the workplace area. You can develop the, and you can be take for that resources from that United Nations government for that resources, and create the culture for World Environment Day. So let us create World Environment Day June 5th as a environmental professional. Thank you. Thanks a lot.